Thank you, Paul. Gurpreet Singh from 9th A, please come over to share your thoughts.
Drugs. These are the termites on the developing trees of today's youth. It's a matter of major concern in India and abroad. Many youth are taking drugs and are constantly losing their lives. Its addiction is bad for mental, physical, and emotional health. To prevent drugs, it's the doctor's first advice. Because if your diet consists of healthy and energy-giving food with a good start of the day, by exercise and yoga, one will never fall in such addiction. Do you know that the lack of social support and stress causes one to fall in such addiction? A healthy lifestyle must contain good friends because good friends means less stress and less stress means a healthy lifestyle. Although drugs, if not prevented, they can destroy someone's whole life. So one must be sent to rehabilitation center if he is addicted to drugs very bad. Drug is often addicted.
Thank you, Gurpreet. Now we have boys from my section 9B. Mohammed Riyam, please come over.
We all say that we should stay away from drug abuse. But the question arises, what actually is drug abuse? The answer to this question is that drug abuse is the excessive use of psychoactive drugs such as opioids, cocaine, etc. They are very harmful to our body, and sadly, with time more and more people are getting into this habit. Jammu and Kashmir has seen an exponential growth in the use of drugs in the past few years. In the years from 2016 to 2019, a hospital in Kashmir reported 1000% in the rise of people coming for rehabilitation. There are approximately 70,000 users of drugs in Kashmir, with women constituting 31% of the number. More chance to live their life to the full. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Raya. Now we have Azam Khan from 9th B.
Drug addiction, also known as substance use disorder, have been defined as a progressive disease that causes people to lose control over oneself and the whole community. Schools with strict compliance, rules and counseling support have been successful at reducing usage. Schools with high programs should make sure to address all aspects of drug abuse that includes underage use of legal drugs such as alcohol and tobacco, street drugs, inhalants, and inappropriate use of legal drugs such as prescription and over-the-counter drugs. Well, there is no cure for drugs addiction, but people can manage and treat this addiction as there is always a risk that this addiction will return. But several therapies exist for controlling this addiction, that is detoxification.
I feel the importance to create awareness about prevention of drug abuse. In the adolescence period, an adolescent suffers from a large number of problems like hypochondria, loneliness, craziness for different things, and all about addiction. In J&K, there are about 60,000 drug addicts. About 10,000 people die every day due to drug abuse. Drug addiction is a complex but treatable brain disease. I know a person who was addicted to drugs. His parents got worried and they suffered more than him. His mother was crying and his father was criticizing him. The boy himself was crying and he was feeling helpless. Some doctors counseled him and gave him a therapy, and finally he was taken to a de-drug addiction center where he did get over it. I think drug addicts should be given a therapy rather than criticizing them. Parents should keep a constant supervision on their children. Children should also discuss their problems freely with their parents. Police and doctors also play an important role to prevent and control drug abuse. I hope every single person among us will prevent and control drug abuse. Thank you everyone for your patience.
Thank you, Adil.
Let's move on to 10th grade boys. We have Muhammad Rabi from 10th A.
I want to start off by quoting the words of the Holy Bible. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. The word drug, when it comes to one's mind, is often taken in a negative sense as it is misused. Drug abuse is a sin, sickness, and a crime at the very same time, as it breaks you physically, mentally, socially, financially, and spiritually. Let's throw light on the root causes of drug abuse and the ways by which it can be prevented and controlled. First, the style of parenting. By style of parenting, what I mean to say is that leniency and not putting your child under a good surveillance will cause in getting him involved in illegal activities and drug abuse. And even if you find out that your boy is consuming drugs, show a positive and patient approach and help him in getting healthy and clean again. Punishing, scolding, and teasing him will cause depression and anxiety and will make him an addict again. In my perspective, drug tests should be conducted to ensure good health and being among the students. Environmental conditions. As we have seen in the past few years, the crack epidemic in US, the heroin disaster in Afghanistan, which serves as an alarm for the government. The government should organize anti-drug campaigns, and sports and health should be promoted on a large platform to ensure good health and reduce the consumption of drugs, especially in the youth. So, I want to conclude my speech on a positive note by saying, everyone is chanting, say no to drugs, say no to drugs. But saying no to drugs is invalid until you create a situation or a scenario where saying no to drugs, saying yes to drugs is invalid. So, friends, be high on grades, not on drugs, and let's make this society a better place.
Sir Hussain from class 5th C.
Hey everyone, today I am going to recite the poem ABC by Spike Milligan. It was midnight in the schoolroom and every desk was shut. Suddenly from an alphabet was heard a loud thud. Said A to B, I don't like C, his manners are a lack. For all I ever see of C is a semicircular back. I disagree, said D to B. I have never found C so, from where I stand, he seems to be an uncompleted O. C was vexed, I am much perplexed. You criticize my shape? I am like that, to spell cat and cow and pool and tail. He's right, said E, said F. Yippee, said G, hip hip hooray. I will look poor, I look ill. To stop this stunt, J stood in front, and presto ill was Jill. You know, said V, that W is twice the age of me. For as a Roman V is 5, I am half as young as he. X and Y yawned sleepily. Look at the time, they said.
Thank you, Mufasa.
All entire humankind. It can cause psychological or physical addiction. All these drugs have tremendous side effects. These side effects can later give rise to several deadly diseases. Thus, the government has come up with strict rules and regulations regarding the production of these drugs. This industry is closely supervised so the smuggling of drugs can be reduced as much as possible. It is our duty as responsible citizens of our country to not misuse the drugs as it will cost us our lives. We should also follow the rules and regulations of the government appropriately. If we see any such crime, we should immediately report it to the nearest police station. Now let us focus on the prevention of drugs. Drug abuse prevention begins with education, spreading the word regarding the dangers of drugs to oneself and to the community. We should create more and more programs absolutely free of charge to prevent our people from doing something they will regret later, and we should also rehabilitate those who are under drug abuse. Also, parents should not put any kind of pressure on their children. Last, but of course not the least, prevention is better than cure. Thank you everyone for your patience and for giving an ear for my speech. I hope everyone has a great day.
Is not just a matter of personal responsibility, but a conscious effect of the community and has to gain the participation of you. You, the people, have the power to stop the use of drugs. You, the people, have the power from all stages and strata of the society to stop the usage of drugs. These things these drugs, these mere chemical substances, they will bring you down. They will ruin your life. They will ruin everything you have. Don't be limited to these drugs. Be proud of yourself. Say no to drugs. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Vami. Can we have Moses from class 10th B?
As the great poet has once said, that what comes from your heart always has an impact. It does not bear wings, but it knows how to rise. Respected judges and fellow Hollians, it is a moment of great pride and honor for me to be standing here in front of you. The fact, what we here as the individuals of the society do here to constitute and do here to serve our very own people, as what we do now will account for what we are going to be. But there is a sad part of the story. Our younger generations, our very own people, they are indulged in seeking the worldly pleasure, the short-term pleasure, that is doing drugs, which is indeed an illusion that will lead us to devastation and we'll meet ourselves in destruction. But the power to change and to resist this current trend lies in us and the perception in our minds. Well, there is a second sad part to the story. Each one of us, including you and me, and this very building is not going to stand forever. We are left with a limited period of time. And what we do at this point in time will reflect what we are going to be in the future. Well, Hollians, let us all strive for a society in which each one of us, including you and me, can live a life of equality and justice. Let us all strive under the name of justice to make this world a better place for human beings to reside. Let us all strive with our true potential, capability, ability. Under the name of justice, future doctors, engineers, lawyers, politicians, leaders, of course, let us all strive. Allah willing, we shall succeed. Allah willing, we will succeed. Thank you. Have a great day.
When these social ties are severed, and when the very fabric of peace and tranquility is rent asunder, and a person is being terrorized and demonized by his inner demons, he does the most natural thing, not drugs, turn to his fellow beings. And that's when he turns to his family, his friends, his classmates, his teachers, and unfortunately many a times he is met with a judgmental gaze, a ridicule, a taunt and a mock. And that's when he says, never again. And that's when he closes up. And that's where the problem starts. That's when he starts to look for the pseudo-dulcet and ephemeral solution of drugs. Therefore, if you go to Google, search what are the causes for drug addiction, it will spit out peer pressure. I'm going to say, don't just come here and say peer pressure and be done with it. See what causes that peer pressure, what causes that individual to go to that peer group that will eventually destroy his life. It's you, me, the society at large who are blinded by their exaggerated sense of morality and piousness, so much so as to disregard the feelings of these individuals who cry for help, whose hearts ache every single second. Torn apart into 1,000 pieces and is trying to hold himself together with each single piece scattered around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shavi. Isaac from 10B, please come over.
These days getting drugs are as easy as getting a pack of cigarettes or something from a market or anything. First they go into depression. When they go into depression, they need someone to talk to. We forced him to go to a psychiatrist. If not, he might have taken drugs. But I've seen what it does to a man. I've seen many cases in this school, in many places, what drugs do to people. I've seen what it does to a man spiritually, physically and mentally.
Kashif from 10C. Can we have you here in front?
Psychological well-being, but it severely affects the institution of family, workplace, community and society at large. There is immediate need to have an integrated approach by society and the state to undertake preventive measures. Drug abuse prevention begins with education, spreading the word regarding the dangers of drugs to oneself and to the community. Institutions like schools can and must play a vital role in the prevention of drug addiction through the organization of awareness camps, outreach activities and skits. Drug abuse should be considered a serious public health problem that affects almost every community and family in some way or another. As you know, people often turn to drugs and alcohol when something in their life is missing or not working. Drug and alcohol are addictive substances. Once a person becomes addicted to these, it's not easy to get rid of oneself. It's very true that a young adult's mind could be molded in any direction depending on the kind of exposure they get. Unknowingly, they might befriend abusers and get into the habit of drinking, smoking or even taking drugs. If we take that typical Indian society into consideration, the young adolescents are often pushed beyond their limits to shine in every field. Parents always want their children to perform exceptionally well in their studies, sports and every other activity. Under excess burden, the child often gets diverted to consume alcohol and drugs as a last resort. Parenting is a crucial responsibility as they must stay connected with the child every time by keeping a track of child's behavior and attitude at all possible times. As the maxim goes, a man is known by his company. Therefore, avoid the company of those who are used to drug substances. Peer pressure is a major part of life for teens as well as adults. If you are looking to stay drug-free, develop a good way to just say no. Prepare a good excuse ahead of time from getting into peer pressure. Some of the measures which can help you prevent and control the drug abuse are: law enforcing agencies like police and judiciary need to enforce the law so that the production of weed and opium is stopped. The families need to take care of the socialization of children and inculcate good habits among the children. The schools need to encourage value-based education in the curriculum and organize special talks and seminars on drug abuse. There is a dire need to develop institutional strategies to stamp out and curb the menace of this drug abuse. At last, I would like to say, develop goals and dreams for your future. These will help you focus on what you want and help you realize that drugs and alcohol will simply get in the way and hinder you from achieving your goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaushal. The last word on today's speech is from Ali Khwaja from Tennessee.
Television series and films attracting you to adopt the same. You can come out the furnace of trouble two ways. If you let it consume you, you come out a cinder. But there's a metal which refuses to be consumed and comes out a star. Drug addiction among youth can be prevented if they are taught of its harmful consequences. Also, moral support from family members is a must, as they are the closest source to the individual. Parents should support and motivate their children and understand what they really need in life. Every child is different from the other, and the parents should really understand their children's expectations to avoid such cases. The most important way to prevent drug abuse is the self-consistency of an individual. He or she should have a strong willpower so that they do not get influenced by the wrong substance that seems to be cool in this materialistic world. However, prevention programs involving entities such as families, schools, and immediate communities is a must. Media, especially the entertainment segment, should understand its role in this context. Glorification of drug use should completely stop. As a young person, we are faced with many challenges in our life. However, very few of us have the potential to affect our life in a more significant way than our own decisions. Always make decisions in consideration that your decision will affect your life, will affect your grades, will affect your health, will affect your relationship and everything which matters to you. Keep your mind calm and give a thought before entering this hazardous world. At first, addiction is maintained by pleasure, but this pleasure gradually diminishes and then addiction is maintained by avoidance of pain. Thank you.
I would like to have Aman Farooq from 6C next, please.
Well, son, I'll tell you. Life for me ain't been no crystal stable. It's got decks in it, splinters and boards torn out, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time as I've been climbing on, reaching landings, turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy,
Don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps because you find it's kind of hard. Don't you fall now. For I'm still going, honey. I'm still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stays. Thank you.
And you are one follow. Now let's have Faizan Ahmed from class 7th 8.
As on his footsteps he hath turned, from wandering on a foreign strand. If such the breath go, mark him well. For him no minstrel rapture sweat. High through his tides, proud his name, boundless his wealth as wish can claim. Despite of tides, power and pearl, the wretch concentrated all in self. Living shall forfeit fair renown, and doubtfully dying shall go down to the wild dust from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. Thank you.
Esteemed teachers, esteemed vice principal, and particularly Nargis ma'am, and above all, dearest students. What a morning it has been. It has been such a refreshing experience for me to be here amidst all of you all and listen to each one of you. Whether it was the poetry recitation or it was the speech competition, I think it was incredible. So let's clap for every teacher who came here. I tried to note few points down so that I wouldn't miss out on things that I observed. Firstly, I must congratulate all your teachers because the amount of work they have been doing on all of you all is quite visible and apparent. You guys are an ambassador for all of them, for all the good work that your school has been. And I was reminded of my experience in one of the missionary schools, and the kind of hard work and the kind of contribution that these schools have been making is immense. And we are absolutely grateful for all of that. Now coming to the poetry recitation first. Poetry is a form of creative writing. And creative writing is all about imagination. It's all about that creative flow of ideas that someone somewhere thought to write about. They felt strongly about an issue and they wrote about it. They let the creative juices flow in a manner which sounded as a poetic justice to an issue. So when you come over here and you perform that, you have to do justice to that passion with which they had written it. So somebody, Khalil Gibran, you might have read his works. He says that you write when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts. So someone somewhere, when they wrote about something, they were not at peace with some idea. Something was disturbing them and they thought to pen it down. And so when you come here and you perform that, you have to communicate that. And how do we communicate? Through verbal communication, like you all did wonderfully, and through non-verbal and paraverbal communication. You know, I teach communication, I teach mass communication, and more than the verbal communication, should I tell you something? It's the non-verbal communication that really impacts the audiences. They say that if what's coming out of your mouth does not match or does not synchronize with your body language, do you know what your audience is going to believe? They'll believe your non-verbal communication. So even if our content is excellent, it's impeccable, but if our non-verbal communication does not really match and synchronize with what we are saying, the chances of being impactful or being persuasive, because in your case that was needed. So they would really be paying attention to your non-verbal communication. And we say that communication is an act, it's a performance. You communicate to make people understand some idea. Whether you talked about the drugs, their role in the society, how to prevent them, and all the repercussions that we face out of this situation, or whether you describe somebody's poetry. If some students made a mistake, they fumbled somewhere, please remember from now on, even if you fumble, even if you falter somewhere, continue. Don't be intimidated by that mistake. Don't stop. I saw few students who felt that they were not able to recall something and they chose to stop and leave. In non-verbal communication, one of the biggest tools to earn few extra points is your eye contact. You have to build a connection with everyone in the auditorium, whether they are up there or they are somewhere in the corner. So try and establish an eye contact. We are all growing, we are all students of life, right? You know, life is all about learning, unlearning, and then relearning the world for all of us. There are things that we were able to do, there are things that you will surely do. And we look forward to your future, and I really am thankful for this opportunity, and I'm glad that I was able to come here today. I missed it in 2019, but today I really did not want to miss it at any cost. So congratulations everyone, and God bless them all. Thank you so much.
I request Nargis ma'am to kindly, the coordinator of today's activity, to kindly come up the stage and present the memento to our chief guest, Dr. Monisa. So a big round of applause for the successful conduct of today's activity. Thank you, ma'am.